All right, everybody. Stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. Quick update on Lithium Americas Corporation, symbol LAC on the New York. Stock closed at 329, up over 60 cents, over 23% on the day. We had big news come out from General Motors, but after hours here, we can see we're continuing to move, and we're up here at 360 currently, up another 30 cents, or about 9.4 additional percent. The stock actually ran up to 379 about 15-20 minutes ago. So let's update everyone and see what's going on. So first of all, in the technicals, a couple of things. When we had this gap down in mid-April, I drew a trend line basically connecting those tops to mid-May, and that is our kind of shorter term resistance trend line. And as I was making the video, I was looking here and we can see it's like 345, 346, and I was saying we closed at 329, we hit 342, so we have to see in the next day or two if we can get up above that resistance level and then possibly continue upward with that bullish momentum. And the stock after hours apparently just continued to go up, and now it's sitting here at 360, and it's well above that resistance trend line. So it seems like this stock may want to retrace back to the 4.5 level maybe. If we completely go back up to this resistance trend line, basically going back from the spin-off and connecting to that pop-up top right there on April 12th, you can see that is our kind of longer term top line resistance, and that's looking like, yeah, like 465, 470. So that would be basically another full point move from where we are currently after hours, and that absolutely is possible, but it may run into a little resistance at around the 4.5 level before we get there. But I just wanted to showcase a couple of those trend lines that I was watching, but let's look at the news. So as we see here, General Motors, Lithium Americas to form joint venture to develop Thacker Pass mine. GM and LAC agreed to establish a joint venture that will see the automaker inject $625 million to develop and operate a lithium mine, a key raw material source for electric vehicles. GM will acquire a 38% asset level ownership stake in Nevada's Thacker Pass project for $625 million in total cash and letters of credit. Lithium Americas will have a 62% interest in Thacker Pass and manage the project. This is the largest ever publicly announced investment by a U.S. original equipment manufacturer in a lithium carbonate project, the company said in the joint announcement. The move highlights the need to create a domestic supply chain for, quote, critical minerals, they said. What did I tell you, right? This is what I said, in my opinion, we were going to start hearing about and we were going to start to see across the mineral, the metal, the material space. Because now, apparently, with a lot of turmoil taking place overseas, everyone's popping off. Who's invading who's got an issue with who's about to attack who. I said that, in my opinion, we were going to try to keep or bring all of these materials, metals, all of this production back domestically into the States here, which is why a lot of you also were pretty pumped about LAC. You kind of saw the writing on the wall. Supposedly, they're going to be, one of the biggest producers of lithium in North America. So that technically is a very big green flag. Then we had the initial news of GM taking an interest in LAC a while back, like a year and a half ago. Then we had the news of the $2.3 billion loan coming from the Department of Energy. So now I think they said initially that they needed like 2.8 or 3 billion or whatever to complete this overall project. And now apparently all that money is now coming in. So what I said originally with the Department of Energy loan update video basically rings true again here. So I'm just going to reiterate it real quick. The fact that you're seeing these influxes come into LAC, in my opinion, tells us that we have long-term value here. So that's why right now, again, initially coming out of the gate, it was what, like $10 at the spinoff, and went all the way down to $2. So I understand if some of you were originally holding a while back and then were down big, or some people may have jumped in after the spinoff at like 9 and change, and then they saw it go down to 2. So I understand it has been very frustrating. I mean, the spinoff took place essentially as lithium prices were raging, and then right after the spinoff, lithium prices started to tank. And that just brought LAC with it. But like we always say, if you liked it long term at, 10, 8, 7, you were adding to the position, then all of a sudden it drops down to the 3s, to the 2s. Again, realistically, obviously you have to be aware of the potential reverse stock split once you reach that, around that dollar level. But it seemed like LAC wasn't going to go that low. And as we always say, if we liked it at 8, we should love it at 3. So hopefully all of you who are just building a position and holding this for the next 3 to 5 years or whatever, hopefully you have a little bit of consistent income and you're able to just add to the position a couple of shares at a time and try to bring that cost basis down. Because I think, in my eyes, this may come to a point where a couple of years down the road, it's not necessarily going to be about what your cost basis was, right? What your first in trade cost was up at $9. I don't think that's really going to be the issue. I think longer term, I think that each and every share may have tremendous value attached to it. And it may come down to not necessarily what you paid for it, but just how many shares you own and how heavily you're involved into the situation. Because I have a feeling that these shares are going to be heavily sought after. But I'll continue that in a second. But shares of GM closed 2.4% higher, while LAC soared 23%. Lithium Americas will contribute $387 million to the joint venture. The company had roughly $376 million in cash as of June 30th. Quote, "We are pleased with the significant progress Lithium Americas is making to help GM achieve our goal to develop a resilient electric vehicle material supply chain. Sourcing critical EV raw materials like lithium from suppliers in the U.S. is expected to help us manage battery cell costs, deliver value to our customers and investors, and create jobs. The current investment replaces a $330 million common equity commitment that GM agreed to with LAC in January of 23. The JV move is incremental to GM's February 2023 $320 million investment, which resulted in the automaker acquiring 15 million shares of LAC. Quote, "Our relationship with GM has been significantly strengthened with this joint venture as we continue to pursue a mutual goal to develop a robust domestic lithium supply chain. We will be working closely with GM to advance towards the final investment decision, which we are targeting by the end of the year." So we may have even further news coming out, maybe over the next month or so. Perhaps maybe we'll hear about it right after elections, maybe, right? Because that's coming up in a couple of weeks. But overall, obviously, big news for LAC. Stock running back up after hours here, above 3.5. And again, in my opinion, just overall, just hearing that news, in my eyes, really solidifies value here. And even after this run up, even if we add some after hours value here, we can put this market cap now at about 750 million, which, as you and I both know, again, it's a longer term play, but that could be viewed as undervalued. Because a lot of these companies, I always mention like these biotech stocks that are, currently like doing clinical trials and everyone's just waiting for like FDA approval. A lot of those companies have market caps that are maintained at the high 100 millions or low 1 billion mark. So something like LAC, even to get it back up and retest like the $1 billion market cap valuation, really isn't asking for too much. And, we're talking about close to a 50% move here from this current level. So this is why I think we may see, 4.5 and maybe even a break up to the high 4s. And we may try to get to like 460, 470 and try to retest this line here. But again, when it came out, it was $10 a share, which is about 3x this value. So that's like 2.1, 2.2 billion. I mean, even at that value, you could potentially make the argument that it's fair value. Because again, I'm not trying to beat up any, of these Wall Street bets traders, but, a lot of these recent stocks as well, we explode them up to market caps of, 5.8, 7.5 billion, and people are still saying that there's more value there. So, I can appreciate that kind of argument, but also at the same time, as we said, something like LAC, we have GM taking a stake, the DOE, over $2 billion loan to LAC, supposedly going to be the largest lithium producer in North America. GM just highlighted as well, this is a critical mineral, and we're, bringing it back domestically to kind of secure that domestic supply. This is what we were talking about we could potentially start to see with all of these companies, not just LAC, right? But all of these mineral material companies. We may start to hear news like this over the next couple of years now, really vamping and ramping back up the domestic supply, the domestic capacity of these metals, these materials. That's why I also said that U.S. steel deal with Japan probably wasn't going to go through. That, in my opinion, is a bad look. That should not be done. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, LAC, this news, again, to reiterate, I think it solidifies value. I really do. And the reason why I was saying some of these levels, right, if we come to stock charts, you can see, first of all, RSI up here at 66 and a third. As we were selling off and lithium prices dropped, of course, after the excuse me, after the spinoff, you can see the RSI for about a month or so was well below the 30 benchmark. So what that means to me is that, especially off of this news, even if the RSI gets up to, 77 tomorrow at the close, that may not be an indicator for people to either stop buying or liquidate their position for a short-term profit. So we may continue to break upward, and the RSI may not be the best indicator, but of course we know we always take a look at it. And right now, 66 and a third, so technically we can keep going, which is maybe why the stock continued after hours, another 20, 30 cents. But technically, we're above the top Bollinger Band now. 310 stock closed at 329. The MACD, we had the gap down, and even though we went into a big downtrend and now we're kind of maybe in this U-turn recovery, the MACD the whole time was slowly rising and climbing. Even tried to maybe cross down recently and turn bearish, but then, of course, we had the news today. Nice bounces off the mid-Bollinger Band, so it seems like we're on the up and up. And you can see the 200-day moving average, 395 on the weekly. So that's why I think we may get up above that initial resistance trend line here that we looked at, and we may run up to like around that $4 level and kind of test and bounce around those moving averages. But on the weekly, you can see we definitely have more room to grow. The RSI basically middle of the road, sitting here at 49. So that can definitely keep ticking higher over the next several months. Weeks. And the 50-day moving average here on the weekly, you can see 441. So I know that top line resistance, we said, like 465, 470. But we have the 200-day weekly, 395. We have the 50-day... No, we have the 200-day daily moving average. 200-day moving average on the daily at 395. Bear with me. I speak English, I promise. And we have the 50-day moving average on the weekly at 441, right? So we may have a little bit of bounces, some pauses right there at, 440. Or as it breaks up above $4. So we'll see what happens. But it does seem like some close levels. And I know this is a stock that a lot of people own, a lot of people are watching, a lot of people are interested in. And usually when we do an LAC video, it does get a decent amount of views. But as I always say, I don't want to just keep going to the well to benefit myself, right? And only talk about the 4 stocks that get the most views. But we do have some close levels to watch, so maybe we'll see. Maybe in the next day or, 3-4 days, the stock may be up here, and we can do another update video real quick and try to see where it goes after that from there. So we'll see what happens over the next day or two. But I do think it gets back above 4, and I think it tries to retest this 441. I think we have the RSI room to go on that. And let's check the pivot points real quick. So yeah, here on the weekly, we had a support level all the way down here at 277, which it looks like it fought to get up above, had a nice bounce off of it, and then boom, we had the news come out. So that is looking pretty good right here. So that's why maybe halfway up to that level. I don't know. It might break up to 5. Might break up to like 495. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. And yeah, when it moves, again, we'll do updates. If we come over here on the daily, we can see we actually ran up and closed right above that top line resistance level, 327. Stock closed 329. So technically, that is still bullish. But you can see as it slowly was ticking down, you can see the old resistance and support levels, right? So let's look at some previous levels that we might run into some hesitation here. So it looks like, yeah, back here in September, it looks like it was just about the same level of about 327. You can see here this resistance, 361, right? Which is interesting because the stock ran up above into the 370s. Where is it? 360, 361. You can see, look, as it came down, it kind of ran right back to that 360, tried to break up above it. That fib 363 comes down, look, tries to hold right there and then breaks down. So this is why sometimes these previous levels, again, it's not set in stone. We know anything can happen, but it's good to go back and look at some of these previous levels sometimes so you can see where you might run into a little bit of a pause. You can see 373. This old pivot point right here, 379, which incidentally is exactly where the stock went after hours and then started to pull back. And what is this level, out of curiosity? I think I need a new mouse pad. 427. Okay, so that's between this moving average and the weekly moving average. So that's why I'm saying it seems like there's a lot of levels and a lot of pivot points and previous resistance and support levels that are now approaching here in the 360s, 380s, 410s, 430s. We have the moving averages, right? So that's why we may come back to this over the next day or two and just see how it performs, see what level it may really run into a roadblock and reject hard, see what level it just catapults right through and then rockets up to the next level, right? So we'll keep an update on it. But had the GM news come out, stock up over 20%, we know we had to do an update. And now everyone looks at the short interest, apparently, which is fine. And we switch over here to FinViz, and we can see that the short float right now, about 13.33%. And chances are, if I was short on this stock and I woke up and saw the news today, I probably would have immediately covered, which is probably why the stock continued to run up and hold its value throughout later morning and into the afternoon, right? So I don't know if we have much of a squeeze play here, but it definitely could add to the situation. And that's why I'm saying, a run up back up to like the 4 level really shouldn't be an issue. And we can see it break up and maybe like start bouncing around here and like slowly make its way up here, right? Mid-November, we're looking at like 436 maybe, but we'll see if it wants to take its time and bounce around those levels, or if we're just going to start just running up now and we're going to go back to 6, 7. Because like I said, even originally at 10, we're talking about like a $2.1 billion market cap. I mean, that's not that much money nowadays, right? We know that. That's not that much money. So anything can happen. But this is why I feel like, again, not to go down the rabbit hole, but I feel like a lot of this could be viewed as almost done on purpose, right? Because you had a lot of younger or smaller up-and-coming investors, and, everyone was watching LAC, talking about LAC, building a position, talking about how, watch, 5 years from now, this thing's going to be massive, you wait and see, right? And there was like so much hype, so much value behind the situation. Then they slowly started to bring it down. We did the spin-off, and then all of a sudden we just tank. We're down huge. Oh, did we make the wrong call? Should I sell it now, take a big loss, try to make the money back on some option trades, and then come back into the stock, right? We start to second guess. But anyone who held on and continued to add to the position, I do give you a lot of credit, because basically what you did was you remained stoic, you put the emotions to the side, and you remembered, like we used to say, you remembered why you initially took a position in the company, what you're planning to see several years down the road, the fact that you're planning to hold for the longer term, and if you started buying the stock up at 12, added more at 9, and then you had no money, you turn around, all of a sudden it's at like 3. If you're able to continue to add to the position, just accumulate shares, average down, hopefully, right now you're in a significantly better place. And even people back here, we just had a couple of people in the Discord who joined us here in the summer who, after the gap down, said, oh, it looks attractive, it's down here, at 4, sub 4, I'm going to start building a position in LAC. Now on this news and the after hours movement, a couple of people in the Discord are now saying, oh, hey, listen, I'm back to break even on LAC now. Oh, I'm up a couple of percent now on LAC. So this is why, like we always say, you have to formulate your watch list, and it could be something you want to play over the next couple of months, like a Hershey, wink, wink. Or it could be something you want to play over the next couple of years, like an LAC. And you formulate your watch list, and then as you see something like an LAC consistently drop down, try to accumulate shares, build a bigger position, lock yourself in for the longer term, and there you go, right? And again, even something, that's why I have something like a DraftKings here on my watch list, right? Took a hit today of about a point. It's down here to the 37. So, based off the recent moves of something like a DraftKings, I know that, yes, it could go a little bit lower and it could drop into the 36s and maybe even the 35s if we look at the technicals. But it has a very, very good chance to go back up above 40. So something like DKNG calls, in my opinion, over the next month or two, probably will generate you a profit. And of course, we looked at price targets on something like that up in the 50s and the 60s. But you understand my point, right? Something like an SB, we knew it was hanging out up at 5.5, hitting new highs. Now it's down here sub 4.5, right? So if you missed it, and if you're able to have a couple of bucks and start building a position or add to the position, this is why, again, I like to just everything we talk about, everything that we like, whether it's long or short term, just make that hit list. And then as you see approach these lower levels, you can take a shot. As you see it approaching maybe some overextended levels, you might know, okay, now it's going to start to pull back a bunch of points. Something like Hershey at 205. Oh, they're going to bring it back down to 190, right? So now I'm going to play the sell-off angle. That's what I mean. Work smarter, not harder. But overall, LAC, again, we know this is going to be a long-term, multi-year hold. But all this money flowing in, all of these people kind of getting behind it, supporting them, trying to jumpstart this Stacker Pass location so that, hey, come on, let's start mining and let's get our own domestic supply increasing here. I think that this can be pretty big over the next couple of years. But yeah, that news hit, stock moved big. Congratulations to all shareholders, but just wanted to jump on and wait to see how it moved after hours and just kind of alert anyone who was a little too busy to hear about this news and not know why the stock was up big today. So did a little vid for you guys, and that's pretty much it. I will end it there. So once again, so Stocks by the Numbers, I want to thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually pretty quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm, right? Of course, all of that helps out. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they are volatile, and they are very uncertain. So I do want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.